Hey guys, Ray from Love Your RV and Boat. So like I said in the last video, I'm set up in an RV park to do some work on the RV. We're staying a month here. I've got things started. I've actually taken the whole underbelly material off, so underneath the RV everything exposed. I just have some of it here. I've cut it out in different sections. It's just like a coroplast, corrugated cardboard material that's screwed on everywhere. Put a bunch of stuff on it in case the wind picks up. These are the kind of screws that it uses, hold it in place. They use tech screws. They just kind of drill it into the different metal pieces down there to hold it on. So a few bits and pieces here. You can see this piece of plywood and this angle iron. That came about when my water tank was kind of starting to fall out and I wanted to support it extra, so I put a piece of plywood in there and angle iron across it just to give it extra support, and it also gives me a spot to put in some kind of stabilizer bars on the back jacks there. Anyway, it's a pull-out bike rack. It's just pulled out while I work on it. We'll crawl under there and I'll give you a look at all the systems and wiring and plumbing that usually you can't see because it's all covered by the underbelly material. Let's go. So we're going to start at the very tail end of the RV, and this is the water tank I was talking about. You can kind of see how it bulges down a bit as it's full. Right now it's about 60% full. So they have some straps going across, 3 of them, but you saw how I've got it reinforced as well. I think it's around a 50 or 60 gallon tank. I think it's supposed to be a 60. I think I get about 55 gallons into it. See the bottom here, low point drain. This is the pickup for the water pump. Sucks it up there where all that foam is. I swapped out my water pump. I used some spray foam. And then there's also the vent hose up here. And this blue hose is a newer one. The OEM one got chewed into by a rodent of some sort and started leaking down here one year. Then on the side you can see this is a sea level tank level meter that sticks onto the side, allows me to know how much water percentage wise is left in the tank. And it has some wiring that goes in here. You can see where the old tank wires were, these nuts here. Those were the old ones, so the wiring was cut off and then the new wiring was put in for that sea level. Got some other wiring here. This is a ground wire, and then these two are wires that pick up a positive wire out of my marker light feed coming through here, and therefore some radar for my rear view camera system. Has a radar system for blind spot radar, and then that's just the ground for that. There's also a ground here that's part of this system. This red wire is one I installed when I put a DC outlet right by my water pump. So I did run a pretty thick wire. It's a 6 gauge, just in case I ever want to do something near the end of the RV. I have a really thick wire in case I want to do something that demands a lot of DC power. And then the other wires are all the OEM wires, wire bundle that goes towards the back of the RV for the marker lights and different things. Up there they have a little stopper so the water pump can't move past this point, because it's just kind of held in place by a couple brackets. We'll just move this way a bit. And you can see there's one of these L brackets on each side. And then you can see over there there's 3 tech screws. I think the OEM used 2. At one point those sheared off and my actual water tank had dropped down onto the I-beam there. So I put it back and added 3, and that's when I put in extra support as well. So that's the end of the RV there. And you can see I've just dropped the underbelly and kind of folded it out. Because at the back there, it kind of goes up and it gets screwed in way up there and then wound down. So I'm going to keep this part of the underbelly like that. Because I cut it at one point so I could get into the water tank when I noticed it had fallen down. But you can see how much it bulges down there. Not a whole lot in here. This is one of the tracks for the slide. If I go this way, you can see the teeth there. The slide comes in there, kind of a rack and pinion system. And then this is the red wire that I have. I just told you about how I had installed a 12 volt going to the back. But everything looks pretty good in here. You do notice where you've seen some dripping there. That's really the only major leaking I've had down here. And I know what that was about. A couple times my water heater, the inputs to my water heater have started to leak and drip. And I remember a couple times we were in RV parks and I'd see dripping under the RV. And actually the water heater had leaked, but we were more slanted that way, so it kind of just flowed and would drip through there. Didn't really cause a whole lot of problems. It kind of ran along the flooring in there, but the flooring has the linoleum on it, so didn't see any problems with rotted wood or anything. Okay, you can see we're at the rear axle here. This is a new wire that I installed last year when they run a wire inside the tube there for the brakes, brake wires here, and it had failed and was causing intermittent shorting out of the brake system. So I bought some new wire. This is marine grade wire, double coated, and all I've done is zip tied it along the axle there. I think I'm going to leave that the way it is. Seems to work quite well. And the next section here is my galley tank. So that's kind of between the axles, and we have right above the galley is a kitchen sink, and that's the only thing that feeds it is the kitchen sink. I think it's around 38 gallons. It has had a leak, I can tell right here. I'm gonna have to explore that. You can see right there. Every once in a while I noticed if the galley was super full, I get a drip underneath. And it looks like that corner's probably got a crack. I've had cracks in the corners of the black and shower gray before. I'll show you that in a minute. And I was able to patch it with a stuff called G-Flex epoxy from West Systems, and it's held up for years, so probably going to do the same thing here. Repair that while I have everything out. Over here you can see that where the OEM wiring runs along there. Brake wiring dropping down. So I'll just move ahead here and we'll go to the next section that has been exposed. Okay, over this way, this is the entrance door side. You can see some wiring dropping down here, and that's actually the power center of the RV. So we have the main DC feed coming down there, and quite a few other wires being fed through there. Over here is the end of the propane. Comes from the front of the rig, ends here, and this goes up to the stove. Over here, this is the grounds. These are a couple grounds here. I think one of them is coming off the AC ground, and then the white is the DC ground. It flips up there, and then it finds a point on the frame there. If you ever have funny problems with your RV as far as the 12 volt system, it's always good to find that ground, because you could have bad connection to the grounding of the frame through those wires. This goes across over here. I have quite a bunch of stuff going on here. I at one point replaced my tank valves with electric valves. So this is the Galley valve. Now the Galley uses an 1.5-inch pipe, not a 3-inch pipe. So I had to do some modifications there. There we go. I left the old valve in, and it actually goes out underneath the slide there. And I just usually leave that open. Sometimes I'll close it in front of this valve, but this is the main Galley valve here. And it's got this white wire coming that gives it its control, tells it to open and shut. It's also got a manual override here. And then it picks up power. It's spliced into the main DC feed over here and got power for that gate valve there. And I've also got power for, this is a repeater for my tire pressure monitoring system. Actually just installed that recently. It goes in the same system as my rear view camera. There's 2 of these that need some power. They don't draw much power at all, so I just leave them on all the time. And then I installed some fuses as well for each of those things. And also here's the other, this is the Galley tank monitor there. And then it's wired into the old system as well. On the end of the tank, you can see where the old system was. The old wiring there, which is not used anymore. Anyway, everything looks pretty good. I don't see too much evidence of any rodent activity. Along the side over here, I did see a little bit of rodent feces, but not much considering this thing's 14 years old now. Let's move along a bit more and I'll show you the slide motor next. Okay, so this is the second slide rail, goes through here. You can see the toothed rod down there, so it's kind of rack and pinion, pulls in, and this is the ram that draws it in right here. And then over here we have the motor, and there's a transmission here. So this thing has a bunch of gearing in it, so this little 12-volt motor can pull that whole heavy slide in very slowly, of course, but this is spinning really fast when it does it. And there's also a little override thing here where you could get a ratchet on it. Actually, we used an electric drill when it failed. I just put an electric drill on that and was able to draw my slide out while I worked on it. And I replaced the motor. I did find out where I can get gearing for that, so maybe I'll give you a link to that as well. I'll try to put as many links to old posts about this stuff I've done under here before. Get a little better look at the Galley between the tires there, and then the 1.5 inches goes through. Now I've modded things. I cut off my 1.5 inches and I put in a flexible one that goes around here because I have a storage box for my sewer hose. You can see I have a Wastemaster sewer hose on the ground there, and that Wastemaster goes into this storage box that has like a support system there, so it always stays under the rig, and then I don't have to disconnect my sewer hose. But during that mod I had to wrap my Galley waste hose around to meet up with the other waste tanks hoses over there. I'll show you that in a bit. Let's just go to this next propane system. This one will be the water heater and the furnace lines, and you can also see the low point drains, hot and cold water low point drains are right there. And then this is a metal, probably an iron or steel propane pipe that goes right to the front there and connects to my propane system. And this is one part of the underbelly I left because of that. I didn't want to disconnect all that, so there's nothing really up there to worry about. It's just kind of an empty cavity. And then the next 2 tanks are going to be black and shower gray. So we'll move forward and I'll show you that area. This back area here, you can see it's got this black So this is all kind of living area in the front living area section. So it has this tarping material, and I can feel insulation in there. So this is actually the living area floor, and it's insulated, and it's also heat ducted. Right here's the furnace. The duct goes out there, so there's ducting and stuff under there. And also you can see this here, that's my underbelly heating. So it comes from the furnace and it pumps warm air into that, and then it can heat all the underbelly when it's cold. Try to keep things from freezing. It's kind of nice. Most of my tank stuff is all underneath, so it can be warmed up by the furnace if I run it. So if it's super cold out, I always make sure we run our main propane furnace a lot at nights to keep everything from freezing. Also keeps all the floors nice and warm. It just uses a lot of propane. Okay, another thing, on one end of my black tank is where the flusher goes in, and while I have the underbelly off, I'm going to pull that out again because every once in a while it kind of gets clogged. You can see there's a pipe come down. Follow this straight up, it goes into the bathroom under sink of the bedroom bathroom sink, and there's a kind of a check valve in there. So the flushing comes in through the tank flushing hookup on the side of the trailer up to that check valve. Then it comes down here and into this tank flushing thing. It's just a sprayer, but I find it kind of gets jammed up from hard water after a while, especially if I don't use it too much. So yeah, we're heading forward now, and you can see now it's just solid wood. So this is actually under the bed now. We're in the bedroom area. You can kind of see where it changes here. That's where you go up the stairs. I'll head over to show you the two tank plumbings here. Not much on this side, just pretty empty. But over on this side we have a lot going on. This is where the water bay is. You can see what they did here. There's my galley tank coming in, and then you can see how they have gray tank and black tank, and they come down in a Y, which is kind of a big pain that they did it that way, because it's hard to take this off. I ended up putting a rubber boot on. I think you could take these rails off that hold the tank at the end, and then maybe kind of finagle it out, but I didn't want to disturb the tanks, so I cut it and I used some rubber booting when I want to take these valves apart, which I do sometimes to unclog them. And then you can see all their wiring going on right there for the two tank valves. And then this is the old tank monitoring system that's been replaced on both the tanks with the strips. And there's just some loom from some wiring I had. So here's the old repairs that I've done. I had cracks up here, and you can see where I used the G-Flex epoxy and some fiberglass to fix that. I've even had a problem down here that I needed to fix. Same deal. Still working good. And there is some stuff way up in the corner of the black. You can't really see it right now. But there we go. That's about it. So it's nice to have everything apart. This is actually the front storage. It's got a big metal pan on it where you put the batteries are stored and everything, landing jacks. Right there is the other tire pressure monitoring system extender, signal extender. So stay tuned. I have a few projects under here to do, clean up, maybe some more videos in the future. Anyway, might be of interest to people if they have a similar rig and want to kind of know what's going on under there. And it's good for me when I forget in a few years, so I can look at this video and see what's going on everywhere. Till next time, Ray from Love Your RV and Boat. Cheers, guys.